2000 Toyota Rav4 with the A540H automatic transmission, four-wheel drive, so it's got a transfer case on there, and we're going to do the transfer case fluid change. It is super easy to change your transfer case oil on the Rav4. All we need is to open up the drain plug using an H10 or a T55. We'll come back to that a little later. And then we drain out just a little bit of fluid. There's not a whole lot in there. Come back and refill through the dipstick, and that's it. We'll get back all to these details in a minute. The hardest part of this is finding the dipstick. If you've never done this job before, you may see this picture and think, oh, I can reach it from the top, but you can't. We're going to reach it this way, so we'll use the steering wheel to turn the front wheels all the way to the left. That'll give just enough access back here to reach in to pull that dipstick out to refill. You can also just remove that wheel and you'll have more room to work if you prefer to do that. But you don't have to remove the wheel. You'll see both of those ways in this video. To get started, use the steering wheel to turn your front wheels all the way to the left and head over to the right side. That's the dipstick right there. It's probably not going to look so easy and clean to see. I had to clean that off so you could see it. They tend to get covered with all kinds of dirt and stuff, but it is in that spot right there. So what you can do before you start the job is just pull this dipstick out. There's a little clasp. You got to push with your finger. There you go. Pull the dipstick out, clean it, and then put it back in and check the level. There's two marks on the dipstick, one for low and one for high. We just want to be between the two marks, preferably maybe a little closer to the high. So, I'm going to pull this out. There we go. Yeah, and I should mention that clasp noise that you're hearing, there's a little clasp. You want to make sure you push it past the clasp. So here's the dipsticks. We'll have a closer look at this real quick. There's the level, so the level is good. We'll be able to just drain and refill. I'll show you here on this dipstick. There's two notches, low notch and high notch, and you might even be able to see it says high there and low. You just want it in that range. Let's start the drain. We'll scooch under right here. For reference, this here is the oil pan drain plug, so that's what you're removing when you do your oil changes. And the transfer case drain plug is that one right there. I want to point out that this is not where we're finding the transfer case, all right? This is the bottom of the transmission. So this drain plug for the ATF looks just like the drain plug. For the transfer case, it fits the same type of bit, that H10, but this is not what we're going for. This is for the for draining the transmission fluid. So we're going to be on the other side. This cross member here, we're on the other side, on the passenger side of this. This here is on the driver's side. We're not doing this drain plug. We're doing the one on the transfer case. Here's our transfer case drain plug here. And ideally, you got to be able to come in here with a 10mm hex like this and get in there. You might have to give it a couple taps to seat it, or you might not be able to get it in. Sometimes if they're reused and they get damaged and they're not replaced, or if they get rusty, there's a few different reasons why this can happen. But try to get a 10mm hex like this in, even if you have to tap it. I could probably tap this in, but I'm not going to. I'm going to replace this drain plug, so I'm just going to go ahead and come in with this T55. That is a T55. You can see it's got that different shape. This will get in here. This will grab this and pull it out. The downside is it will damage the inside of the fastener, or the inside of the drain plug, so we'll have to replace this drain plug. I'm going to replace it anyway. I'll give you all those part numbers. So we'll go ahead and open this up by turning counterclockwise. Get a drain pan in place. We want to catch a little less than 3/4 of a quart. I got my drain pan in place. Got my T55. These can be pretty tight, so I'm actually using a pretty long ratchet here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this counterclockwise to break this free and get this draining. There we go. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and take this ratchet off. That socket's probably going to be stuck. Okay, cool, it didn't get stuck. Move this a little bit, make sure I don't make a mess. There we go. We'll let that drain. While that's draining, we'll take a look at the drain plug. You can see there's a magnet on there, and it'll collect a little bit of material. You can see that's what it looked like when I first wiped it. If I wiped all the way clean, you can see there's just going to be a little bit of wear material on there. If you're reusing your drain plug, just go ahead and clean this off. Just remove what you can of it. There's the part number for the new transfer case drain plug. And I got a note on there which gasket to use, which is the same gasket they use for the transmission drain plug on the Rav4 and a lot of other Toyotas, if you happen to have one of those hanging around. So here's our old one. I got a gasket here, drain plug here. I'll go ahead and put this on now, just so I don't forget. And then you always want to compare your profiles. Make sure they are the same profile, and they are. Both have the magnet on there too. I'll show you how well this 10 hex fits on a new drain plug. That's what it's intended for. I could have tapped this on. I could have made it fit, but it's just not worth it, especially, like I said, since I knew I was going to be replacing this. If you're in a real bind and all you have is a hex 10, H10, then try tapping it on, but be aware that you might come into trouble when it comes time to remove that, and then you might have to heat this up to get the socket out, and then again you'll have the same problem when you go to install it. So if your drain plug is real chewed up, just go ahead and order another one. They're only $3-4 I think. If you're reusing your drain plug, if it's in good condition, make sure you use a new aluminum gasket. Only use the same kind of length of drain plug, because if you reach your finger in here, you can feel there's stuff to run into right there. So don't go in with any longer drain plug than this OE one that came with it. Make sure that you've got the gasket on. We'll just thread this in. Now we'll just tighten this up. Torque on this, I have two different values. I have a value of 29 foot-pounds and a value of 27. So do 28 if you want to be in the middle. We'll switch to my torque wrench now and get this tacked down. There it is. All right, now we refill. Drain plug is in. Now our refill is through the dipstick right there. There's a little bit of the old oil that I drained. You can see it doesn't look too bad. So this was a 30,000 mile or so change on this Rav4, and I'm going to use the same oil for the refill because I've been using it for many years and many refills and haven't had a problem. This is what I use on this transfer case for the A540H and the Rav4 Mobile 1. Synthetic gear lubricant, 75W90. This LS is for limited slip. We don't need any kind of friction modifier in the oil for the transfer case. However, it won't hurt. So you don't have to find something that has the limited slip friction modifier in it. If you find something you like that doesn't have that, that's fine. Just as long as it meets these specifications over here from Toyota. And the main big one is make certain that it meets or exceeds this, where is it? API Service GL5. It's a hypoid gear standard. The transfer case on the Rav4 is not a chain drive. It is a gear drive. So make sure you get API GL5. Whatever you decide to get, you only need 1 quart. You actually need 3/4 of a quart. And technically, you really only need 0.7 of a liter. It's about 700 milliliters, little less than 700 milliliters is all we need on the refill. So get yourself a quart like this and you'll have a little extra for the next time. This is what I use to get that fluid back in, and this is a great tool. You can get this at Walmart or Amazon, Napa Advance for under $5. This is by HyperTough at Walmart or FloTool elsewhere. And this thing is great. It screws right onto a quart-size gear oil bottle. The only modification I suggest is to cut this so these little keepers are there so that cap will stay in connected, but it's just going to get in your way on this job. So cut that. Don't have to make any modifications here. This will fit perfectly in the dipstick tube. Then on this side, how this works is this, hold this black part and then turn the yellow part. Which way am I going? Counterclockwise to open it. So when it's extended out, that's the open position. And then you can turn it clockwise to close it. And that's nice since we're going to have the bottle upside down like that. The other end of this, let me grab a bottle to show you. These gear oil quarts are all pretty much the same. So you can thread this on here like this. Only caveat I'll say is once it snugs up like that, stop. Don't keep turning because it'll do that right there. It won't stop turning. It'll keep turning until you get like that, then it'll leak. So just turn it on until it's snug like so. And then I'll show you, this is an empty bottle, an old one. I'll show you on this other bottle here. Here's my bottle with the new stuff in it. And you can see the level. I haven't got it filled all the way up. I got to fill it up here. I've got a mark there for 660 milliliters. That's pretty much the max, it seems. So I'll fill the fluid up to right about there. I won't exceed that. If you collected what you drained, you can just use that as your refill. If you checked your dipstick before and the level was good, collect whatever you drain out, measure it, whatever that value is, you can put the same amount back in. So let's say it's going to probably be between, like, let's say 650, maybe probably about 650 and 670 is probably what you'll get. So I'm going to fill this up to here, right there, and then what I do is, pretending that this is filled up, so I'll have it filled up to there. Then what I do is make sure that this is closed, put the plug on here just in case that's not closed, put the plug on here, and then flip this upside down, and then the fluid will be down here, and then come up here and punch a hole in this. So you'll have an air pocket up here, punch a hole in there. The reason is because we're going to have it in this upside down position to fill it, and we just want to use gravity to fill this because the air is going to come out the dipstick tube the same as we're putting the fluid in. We're going to displace the air as we put the fluid in. You'll see air bubbles will try to come up this tube back here, and if you have this little puncture hole here, you can just put your thumb over it and kind of control it, and you can control the flow that way. Otherwise, it just takes forever. It takes a long time anyway to slowly fill this. It's going to be tempting to squeeze the bottle, but don't squeeze the bottle. You're more likely just to overflow it, and then it comes out and makes a mess, and then you don't know how much you lost. So just go slow, let it gravity drip in there, and then with this hole here, you can just kind of control the flow and not make a mess. This setup works quite well. You can see I've got the front right wheel off here. You don't have to remove the wheel to reach the dipstick, but it'll make it a lot easier for me to film it for you anyway. That's what we're going for. If you could reach that dipstick, you can refill the transfer case. You might want to put the drain pan underneath because there's a chance you could spill. I'll grab this dipstick. I'm going to go in here with my fill kit. And this is where you just got to make sure you go slowly because it's pretty easy for this to back up. Now I'm going to turn this part open and go ahead and let that start flowing. And just let it go slowly. It's tempting to rush it, but it'll end up backing up and leaking. It takes a few minutes to fill up. Takes a few minutes, but if you're patient, you can get all that in there without making too much of a mess. You can see I just had a few little drips there. Pull this out now. I got the wheel back on, you can see there. I'll show you how to get the refill kit back in here with this tire in place. First thing, put this in and then get this around. All right, make sure you got that closed so you're not going to leak any. And then you're going to bring this around very carefully aim it into place there. Right, like so. All right, and then you would just take your time and do your refill here. It's totally possible to do this with the wheel on. Then when it comes time to get this out of here, you would turn this off. Like I said earlier, ideally only put in the amount that you need to refill into your container here, and then pull this out, and voila. The hardest part is actually getting the, depending on your tire size, getting this part in. So put the bottle in first and then swing things around. So this has been setting for a while and it is dropped. The transfer case is level. If you do lift the vehicle, make sure that you drop it back down before you rely on your dipstick checks. Put this in here. I'll wipe this oil off there that I just dripped, showing that. And then I'll pull that dipstick out and have a look at the level. There's the level there. You can see those hash marks, and right there, that's the high side, low side. So we're good as long as you're in that range there. I like to have it a little closer to the high side, so this will work. We saw this note before, but do not overfill it. This value is probably the very high side of it, as I showed just now. About 650, 660 milliliters is probably a more reasonable value. But if you check the dipstick before you started the drain, and then you just drained it, you measured the amount that you removed, you can just refill with that exact same amount, and that'll get you into the range between the proper range on the dipstick between the low and the high. Just don't overfill. Last step, just put that dipstick back in and make sure that it's tucked in behind that clasp. So that is a wrap on the transfer case fluid change on this first generation Rav4. Like any fluid change, make sure you take it for a test drive, check the level after a test drive, and check the drain plug for leaks. Other than that though, that is it. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you for watching and good luck with your repair.